Time by Carrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The business news headlines is brought to you by CBX Wealth Management, making more possible.
Economic resilience tested, CBI under scrutiny, and NVIDIA makes a strategic move. Good evening and welcome to CBX Business News for Monday, December 29, 2025. I'm Rachelle Moncrief. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the newscast locally, Prime Minister Holness says Hurricane Melissa will slow Jamaica's economy, but insists the shock will not derail the recovery path. On the regional front, European Union flags Caribbean citizenship programs as a potential risk to visa-free access, raising new pressure on regional governments. And over on the global stage, NVIDIA secures strategic access to rival AI technology, a move that could reshape competition in the fast-growing AI chip market. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the CBX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why CBX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
It smells so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It smells so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It smells so good right now. Don't ever, ever, ever wanna calm down. No, no, no. Yeah,
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with a message of resilience and resolve from Jamaica's Prime Minister. Jamaica's economy remains on a growth path despite the disruption caused by Hurricane Melissa. But the government is warning that recovery will depend on faster rebuilding, stronger productivity, and disciplined execution. In his Christmas Day message, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says key sectors including logistics, construction, agriculture, and tourism were expanding before the storm and must now drive output to offset losses in severely damaged parishes. While Melissa is expected to interrupt near-term growth, the Prime Minister cautioned against allowing the disaster to become a prolonged drag on economic performance.
Our logistics industry is expanding rapidly. Construction, agriculture, and tourism are also growing. Jamaica is on a good path. Yes, Hurricane Melissa will interrupt our growth, but we must not allow it to be a drag on our economy.
He urged regions that escaped major damage to increase production and investment to stabilize national output.
The part of Jamaica that was spared must double our efforts to make up for the fall in output of the severely damaged parishes. Now, as we look ahead to the new year, let us carry forward the lessons of this one. Let us commit to planning better, building smarter, and caring deeper.
That was Prime Minister of Jamaica, Dr. Andrew Holness. As Jamaica moves from emergency response to economic recovery post-Hurricane Melissa, the private sector is emerging as a critical force in getting the country back on its feet. Businesses have already contributed nearly $2 billion Jamaican dollars to relief and recovery efforts. While the figure sounds significant, President of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Metri Siaga, told CBX News that the scale of devastation means those resources are being stretched thin across the affected areas.
The private sector has donated about $2 billion Jamaican dollars to the recovery effort. And that number sounds like a big number, but when it's spread amongst the people that were devastated by the hurricane, it's not that big a number. The point is that the government can't do it on its own, and we can't expect governments to do it on its own. And the only way that countries get back to where they need to get back to quickly is by the private sector and the public sector working together. Then we must, and if we don't use this and realize that in the everyday life, we need to work together to make sure that we get where we're going faster than we otherwise would if we don't work together.
That was PSOJ President Metri Siaga. Jamaica's electricity provider, the Jamaica Public Service JPS, has launched a temporary mobile power generation unit in Treasure Beach, marking a significant shift in how the country responds to major energy disruptions after natural disasters. The unit is designed to restore electricity to businesses and communities while damaged transmission lines are rebuilt, allowing economic activity to resume even as permanent infrastructure remains offline. Speaking at the launch, Director General of the Office of Utilities Regulation, OUR, Ansud Hewitt, says the mobile plant is being treated as a proof of concept, testing whether modular and rapidly deployable generation can shorten outages following extreme weather events.
So today we're happy to be presented with proof of concept by way of the commissioning of this emergency mobile power generation unit. I'm sure that the residents and businesses in Treasure Beach and its environs are elated that they do not have to wait for weeks and months to have electricity restored. I am pleased with this innovation because I believe it offers us an opportunity to explore options and choices for how the national grid can be configured to operate with greater levels of segmentation and resilience when we face events such as the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. The OUR therefore looks forward to examining the lessons learned from the application of this and other innovations and how they can be embedded in our manual of best practices.
That was OUR Director General Ansud Hewitt. Meanwhile, the President and the CEO of JPS, Hugh Grant, says the emergency power solution in Treasure Beach reflects a broader shift in how restoration is approached after extreme weather.
We recognize that restoration is not just about lines and poles. It goes beyond numbers. It means creativity, innovation, pulling out all the stops to power businesses and communities. And here in Treasure Beach is an example of what's required to do something creative and have strong partnerships with the community, with the regulator, with the business leaders, and also with government.
That was JPS President and the CEO, Hugh Grant. In other news, VM Wealth Management Limited says the initial public offering IPO of Dequity Capital Management Limited has been terminated after the offer failed to meet the minimum subscription requirement by the December 18 closing date. The decision taken by Dequity's board means the company will not proceed with the listing, triggering a full refund of all subscription funds paid by investors. While the outcome is a setback for Dequity, VM Investments, acting as lead broker, says the move reflects capital market discipline, ensuring that companies do not list without adequate investor backing and that market integrity is preserved. All applicants will receive full refunds within 10 business days, with payments expected to be completed no later than January 6, 2026, using the same channels through which applications were made. We go now to updates from the Bank of Jamaica on how the currency markets traded today. In Monday's currency trading session, the US dollar is selling for $159.93, the Canadian for $116.56, the pound sterling for $212.89, and the going rate for the euro is $185.86. We move to the latest updates from the JSE equities. In Monday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 120 stocks, of which 55 advanced, 43 declined, and 22 traded firm. Leading today's winners are West Indies Petroleum Terminal, Radio Jamaica, Productive Business Solution USD ordinary shares, and Stanley Motor ordinary shares, while leading the losers are MPC Caribbean Clean Energy USD, Jamaica Public Service Company 9.5%, Margaritaville Turks USD, and Margaritaville Turks. Trading activity resulted in the following movements of the JSE indices. The main index advanced by 833.59 points, or 0.26%, to close at 316,034.39 points. The junior market index advanced by 33.15 points, or 0.99%, to close at 3,368.99 points.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by Chris. Regional ratings, global standard.
In today's market education feature, we will be exploring the term fraud ring. A fraud ring is a coordinated group of perpetrators who collaborate to carry out schemes such as money laundering, identity theft, or marketplace fraud. These groups can range in size from just a few individuals to dozens or even hundreds. Members typically pool resources like stolen identity information used to bypass verification and work together to achieve their objectives. If you run a business, you could be more vulnerable to fraud rings. Watch for warning signs such as sudden unusually large orders from long inactive customers, new accounts that quickly start making significant purchases, and refund claims for products that appear to be in good condition when shipped.
The Market Education Feature was brought to you by Chris. Regional ratings, global standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Diamond Trading. Better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
We get it! We get the big contract! 50,000 units a month! for 3 years. Great, won't need help.
If you are a business owner that requires capital for the expansion of your business, talk to a registered broker today to find out more about listing your company on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, an efficient alternative to other financing options.
Thank God for the Jamaica Stock Exchange Junior Market.
The Jamaica Stock Exchange, providing a fair, efficient, and transparent stock market.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. The European Union, EU, is warning that the Eastern Caribbean's citizenship by investment industry has become a frontline business risk, one that could threaten visa-free access to Europe and disrupt a major revenue stream for several regional economies. In its 8th visa suspension mechanism report, the European Commission says investor citizenship programs in Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia pose a persistent and serious security concern for the Schengen area, creating grounds for possible visa suspension under revised EU rules. The numbers are stark. The Commission estimates that around 107,000 passports have been issued through Eastern Caribbean programs, with more than 10,500 applications processed in 2024 alone. Rejection rates remain low, single-digit in most cases, raising red flags in Brussels about due diligence standards, security vetting, and the absence of a genuine link between applicants and issuing states. From a business perspective, the warning cuts deep. Citizenship by investment programs are a core foreign exchange earner for several small island economies, helping to finance infrastructure, climate resilience projects, and post-disaster recovery. But the EU says the same programs, if left unchanged, could undermine trust in the visa-free regime that supports Caribbean tourism, business travel, education links, and investment mobility. Against that backdrop of heightened scrutiny from Europe, one Caribbean leader is making it clear that citizenship by investment is not being shelved but recalibrated. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is moving decisively towards launching a citizenship by investment CBI program, framing the initiative not as a luxury but as a fiscal necessity. Prime Minister Dr. Godwin Friday says the country has reached a hard limit on borrowing. He says with public debt standing at roughly $3 billion, traditional financing is no longer viable.
We intend to proceed with our plan to have a citizenship by investment program here in the country, because I believe we are reached a point now with debt of $3.1 billion. 36 cents out of every dollar goes to service the debt. You can't borrow much more. And in these day and age, people are not coming to say, listen, here is some money here, and they accept that they're demanding things that you can't give.
The government has ruled out a 2025 rollout, confirming instead that the program will go live in 2026.
In 2026, and we will have the program up and running. Of course, we are coming in the last in the OECS, so we have the opportunity to look at what other countries have done and to pick, what are best practices, and we're in that process now.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister acknowledged surprise at recent actions by the United States and European partners targeting some Caribbean CBI programs, but insists those moves do not threaten the country's plans.
I know that the ECCB, and with input from the U.S. government, U.S. officials, and from European people who have raised questions about the CBI program, they've all had input in it, and they've made some adjustments which were satisfactory to those persons. So I was surprised by it, but I don't think it jeopardizes the program. I think that there may be other reasons why those actions were taken.
That was Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Godwin Friday. And while St. Vincent and the Grenadines is moving cautiously towards citizenship by investment as a new fiscal lifeline, the experience of another Eastern Caribbean state is now serving as a lesson about what happens when that revenue stream becomes a crutch. St. Kitts and Nevis was warned as far back as 2018 that its economy was becoming dangerously overdependent on citizenship by investment inflows, but that warning was never made public at the time. Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew says a 2018 International Monetary Fund (IMF) Article 4 report flagged slowing economic growth, rising fiscal vulnerabilities, and declining CBI revenues, urging urgent reforms to protect macroeconomic stability. According to the Prime Minister, the previous administration refused to give permission for the IMF to publish the report, effectively shielding its findings from citizens, investors, and international partners.
It says growth has slowed over the past year, Madam Speaker, and the medium-term outlook remains moderate. Directors acknowledge significant challenges, including those associated with declining citizen by investment inflows. Madam Speaker, 2018 report, this is why they hid it. They did not want the people to see that. It says financial sector vulnerabilities, tighter global financial conditions, and weather-related shocks. Madam Speaker, against this background, directors encourage policies to safeguard macroeconomic and financial stability, together with reforms to strengthen competitiveness and foster inclusive growth. Madam Speaker, already they're telling them you can't depend on the CBI inflows since 2018.
That was Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Drew. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 22 securities, of which 6 advanced, 4 declined, and 12 traded firm. Leading today's winners are JMMB Group, A.S. Bryden & Sons Holdings, First Citizens Group Financial Holdings, and Scotiabank Trinidad and Tobago, while leading the losers are Massey Holdings, National Enterprises, Trinidad and Tobago NGL, and Endeavour Holdings. Trading activity resulted in the following movements of the TTSE indices. The All TNT Index advanced by 0.58 points or 0.04% to close at 1,373.71. The Composite Index advanced by 0.50 points or 0.05% to close at 948.89. The Cross-Listed Index advanced by 0.06 points or 0.09% to close at 69.17. The SME Index declined by 0.18 points or 0.19% to close at 94.06. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
Caribbean dreams, instant turmeric tea. What you put in is what you get out. What you put in is what you get out. Yeah. Build up your body, boost up your brain. Take on the world now. Say bye-bye pain. Caribbean dreams, instant turmeric tea. Be good to you. Caribbean dreams, instant turmeric tea. Distributed by Amalgamated Distributors Limited.
Welcome back. In international news, NVIDIA has quietly reached a major agreement to acquire key technology and senior talent from AI chip rival Grok. The move is poised to reshape the fast-growing AI inference market and further consolidate NVIDIA's position beyond graphics processing units, effectively neutralizing an emerging competitor ahead of 2026. The deal, structured as a technology license and acqui-hire, brings Grok's top executives, including its CEO, into NVIDIA, while granting the chip maker access to Grok's high-speed inference architecture. The transaction, reportedly valued at around $20 billion, also appears designed to avoid direct antitrust scrutiny, with Grok remaining an independent entity on paper, despite losing much of its leadership and intellectual property leverage. And while NVIDIA moves to lock in its technological edge, another major player is betting big on the infrastructure powering the AI boom. SoftBank Group is nearing a deal to acquire Digital Bridge Group, a major U.S. investor in data center and digital infrastructure assets. Digital Bridge shares jumped today on reports of the potential acquisition, which is expected to value the company at around $4 billion. While the price tag is modest by SoftBank standards, Digital Bridge oversees approximately $108 billion in assets spanning data centers, fiber networks, towers, and edge computing systems. If completed, the takeover would mark another strategic step in SoftBank's push to scale its AI-focused infrastructure portfolio, reinforcing its ambition to dominate next-gen computing capacity. The deal remains subject to due diligence and regulatory approvals, with final terms yet to be confirmed. Still in the global technology and trade landscape, China is signaling a shift in its economic playbook. Beginning January 1, 2026, China will cut import tariffs on 935 products as part of a broader effort to open its market, stabilize supply chains, and reduce input costs for key industries. The Customs Tariff Commission of the State Council says the provisional duties will fall below China's standard most favored nation rates. The measures cover a wide range of goods, including clean energy inputs and medical technology products. Targeted items include recycled black powder used in lithium-ion battery production, as well as artificial blood vessels and certain infectious disease test kits. Beijing has also indicated that further tariff adjustments could follow, as it seeks to align domestic industries with global demand and support ongoing economic restructuring. And finally, we move from trade policy to defense spending. India has approved defense procurement proposals worth nearly $9 billion aimed at strengthening the country's military capabilities. The Defense Acquisition Council, chaired by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, cleared a broad slate of modernization projects for the Army, Navy, and Air Force. Approvals include drone detection and interdiction systems, long-range guided rockets for the Army, new bollard pull tugs and software-defined radios for the Navy, and Astra air-to-air missiles and precision guidance kits for the Air Force. New Delhi says the investments form a part of its continuing drive to modernize its armed forces and improve readiness amid evolving regional security challenges. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break.
I'm trading stocks to achieve my financial goals. I'm also trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Check jamstockx.com for information and a list of registered stockbrokers. You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin. I am achieving my financial goals.
I'm achieving my financial goals.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, PM Holness says Hurricane Melissa will slow the economy, not derail it. Regionally, EU flags Caribbean citizenship programs as visa-free risk. And internationally, NVIDIA secures strategic access to rival AI technology. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rachelle Moncrief. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.